Hi, my name is Chinedu Ossai. One of the co-founders of a company called RevWit, where we provide sales services and software to B2B businesses to help you manage your sales operations. I've had a very interesting journey. I've worked across several companies. I started my career in sales in UBA. I've worked at InterSwitch. I've worked at Bolt as well. I did some time at London Stock Exchange Group before I joined, RevWit, where we're building software now. Because of time, I'll just run through things, right? But I do have a question for people in the house here. Is there anybody here that is a core salesperson all your career? Salespeople, let me see your hands up. Don't be shy. Salespeople, let me see your hands up. You're a salesperson. Put your hands up. Anyways, the real question is there anybody that went into sales because they love sales? Is there anybody here that, I started selling because I love sales? Just one person. Now, wow. But that's the exact reaction, right? My experience as well. Like, for me, getting into sales, it was just the available job at that time, right? Normal Nigerian P. And my first 5 years in sales, I hated it. Like, it was the worst thing I was doing in my life. But there was a reason, and there's a couple of things I'll talk about today that made me start liking sales. Because at some point in my career, I started to learn about operations, processes, and tools that would really make your life easier as a company, as a sales team, and as a salesperson. But it took me 5 years, right? And, as Napa said, one of the things we'll be talking about today is like a CRM software. And there's this very interesting quote on the slide here that says, a CRM without a playbook, team enablement, and a process is useless, right? So first, you need to lay your foundation, then let your CRM help you operate efficiently. So why did I hate sales for that first 5 years? Because I didn't have like any of these things at my disposal. I was just, salesperson, this person, get this person's phone number, call them, go to their office. If they don't answer you, stay there 5 hours, stuff like that. So that was like the experience, like the first couple of years, right? Until I started working for a couple more, managers that trained me and a couple more companies, right? And that is what we'll get into today. So what are you expecting from this, right? So we're going to cover three very key things: the customer journey, enablement, and process. A lot of the things you see here, or a lot of the things you will hear here, you probably have already heard it from all the fantastic speakers that have spoken today, right? But they all ease into why you need a CRM software, right? And they are the things you need to get first before you want to think about even implementing a CRM software. Because again, without all of these things, CRM softwares are just useless, right? It's like getting a tool before you get your process right. So let's talk about customer journey, right? So there's a couple stages in the customer journey like we've seen. There's the awareness, there's the consideration, decision, there's closing, and there's the success. Across these different stages, there are specific things that your customers want to achieve. And your responsibility as the salesperson is to help them achieve these things. Take, for example, at the awareness stage, the customers are just becoming aware of the problems that they have, right? So as a salesperson, your responsibility is to, give them enough information, to make them aware of those challenges, right? And also like the opportunities. The consideration stage is pretty much the same thing. Okay, now I'm aware of the challenges I have. I'm aware of the pains I'm experiencing. I'm aware of the problems my business has. What are the options for me to solve those problems? That is the next stage of the customer journey. And it's also like your responsibility as a salesperson to make that information available to them, that these are the options I have. And obviously you have a solution to sell, assuming that your solution is a great fit for the problem that they have. So you're putting your solution forward as the option to help them solve that problem that you made them aware of in the first place, right? Speaking about it from a sales perspective. Then there's the decision stage, right? Okay, I have a problem. I've seen all the options that I have. I've seen yours. I've seen your competition. Okay, how will I decide which one I want to choose? Your responsibility as a salesperson to inform them. Then there's closing, right? when they finally sign the check, and you collect your money, before you onboard them, then the final step is success. I have started utilizing like the solution, right? Is it going to give me recurring value? Am I going to get like first value from the solution first, which is what the salesperson has said this solution will do for me. So I'm a salesperson, I go into an account and I say, hey, it will do X, Y, Z. You always find that sometimes salespeople will go and promise things that really doesn't exist, right? But it's on the roadmap. We're working on it. So, and, okay. But no wahala. So, but that's where success really comes in, Sha. You see that thing that you have promised as a salesperson, right? If they don't get it at the point where they sign that check, that's where you now start to get things like my Oga said, adoption, churn. That's where it all happens, So success for your customers really happens across the entire customer journey, right? It happens from where they become aware of the problem. It happens from, when they become aware of, options to solve that problem. It happens when you guide them to take a decision to solve that problem. When they finally give you the check and where your customer success team comes in to onboard. That's the entire journey, right? Now, why am I talking about the customer journey? When you have a sales team, right, one of the worst things that you can do to your salespeople is to throw them into the field without enablement, which is my experience in the very early stages of my career. That's why I tell you, that's why I said I hated sales in those first years. And check it. There's a couple of us here that might have maybe products that we sell or that we have like companies that we run. Go and talk to your sales team. Ask them, do you really enjoy sales? Obviously, because you pay them a salary, nobody's going to tell you that I'm not enjoying sales. They'll tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread. But when you have like deep, honest conversations with them, right, you start to see things that you need to like improve. And one of the biggest things you hear is, I don't have any support as a salesperson. You just gave me this product and you just told me to just go and sell it. Maybe, you heard about a CRM somewhere and, you just did one CRM. You just put pipeline stages in the CRM and you just start asking me, where's this deal, right? How do you prevent that? Enablement, right? And let's look at enablement. What you typically see is, I have tried to structure the different kind of enablements that you can give your salespeople across the entire customer journey, right? So take, for example, this is the awareness and consideration stage, right? So what kind of enablement do you give your salespeople? And how do you help them, execute it? So one of the first things here you see is a sales cadence. And a sales cadence is pretty much just a sequence of events that a salesperson needs to carry out to either book a meeting or close a deal, right? So when you hear, there's this very popular phrase in sales, they'll tell you always be closing. It's a big lie. You set yourself up for failure, right? I mean, it's not a lie, but you're not always closing deals. At the different stages of the sales process, you're closing something, but it's not always deals. For example, at the awareness stage, the one thing you should be closing is meetings. Because you need to get people in a room to have conversations with them for you to really understand their pain points to see if your solution can even help them out, right? And that's what the sales cadence really does. And I just put an example of a sales cadence here. So you'll see a lot of situations where you have a sales team, you have salespeople, right? And they just run wild, right? Without like, so if you understand like engineering lines, like manufacturers, if you go to like where they make, let's say a common thing, Zobo, for example, right? You see that there's stage one, right? This is what happens in this stage. This is the SOP for this stage, right? This is the expected outcome from this stage. Stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5, stage 6. And there's quality assurance for each stage, right? And those are the kind of things that you need to provide to your salespeople. So at this awareness stage, one of such is a sales cadence. And what does sales cadence really look like? It's just a series of steps. You're saying, okay, you want me to come and sell to Napa at B4B, right? Napa is big, Napa is blown, she's hard to reach, she's not going to talk to you, right? But you need to... but anyways, so you need to find a process that you can measure to help your salesperson reach Napa, right? My man here said something very typical about advertisements, and he used a couple of examples that you need to see something over and over and over and over again before you finally make a decision, or if you even make a decision at all. And that's also something like the sales cadence does. It's not only in marketing. It works for human beings that need to do the work as well. Take, for example, this has steps. It has number of days. It has the actual activities that you need to carry out. And it also has the channels that you need to carry out those activities. It now then also has what type of activities are those. Are they manual or are they automated? Automation is where the tools come in, right? We'll talk about that. But this is one of the first steps of enablement that you need to give your sales teams, right? Is sales cadence. And you typically run them with what we call sales enablement platforms, right? To help you drive this entire process. Then there's discovery guides as well, right? And, I'm sure all of you here heard about when they talked about qualifying and, asking discovery questions as well. And what qualification really does for you is you want to really make sure you lose deals early. That may sound counterproductive coming from a salesperson that always wants to win deals. But one of the biggest skill sets you can have as a salesperson is to know how to lose deals early, as quickly as possible, right? And that's what a discovery guide does for you, right? So for a discovery guide, right, there are usually a ton of sales methodologies that you can use. There's bands, there's medic, there's spin, there's so many of them, right? And the general idea of having so many sales methodologies for you to intuitively, as a salesperson, pick the right one that works for the product you sell and the customers you sell to and your actual reality. But, those methodologies have evolved over time, right? And there's one I really like a lot that I've seen from a company called Winning by Design, and it's called Spiced, right? Spiced. So Spiced, S stands for situation. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll try my best. Then pain. Then there's impacts. There's critical events. And there's decision. What you see is all of the sales methodology that has been built in this life. You'll find one of them in all of these situations. And why am I talking about a sales methodology in enablement, right? Because the sales methodology is actually the lifeblood of the sales team. If you don't have a methodology that you use to engage your customers and try to understand the pain points and try to close them, you can't really measure it. And if you can't measure that process, you can't really improve performance, right? So discovery guides at the awareness stage. What you really want to do is you want to understand the situation of the customers. I'm sure they've done an extensive session about ICP here, right? Your ideal customer profile. What's the industry, what's the team size. There's so many criteria you can choose. And as a salesperson, at this stage of the sales process, what you really want to uncover is situation. This is what helps you qualify to move forward or disqualify very early, as in the first conversation you are having with anybody in that organization. I can even go on to say, even before you have a conversation, there's research. You can go on Google, there's databases, there's, ChatGPT, there's DeepSeek, there's all of those stuff now. You can do your research about a contact on your lists before you even say you want to waste your time putting them into your funnel, right? So you need to understand that situation, right? So cadence, discovery guys, I'm not going to go into all of them. Napa and the B4B team, they've done a very fantastic job of providing a sales playbook. They even printed it out. That's the first time I'm seeing a printed out sales playbook. So they've been very, very, very generous. So we can use that, right? And all of these things are available there, right? So there's the cold outreach guides as well. They've talked about scripts, they talk about templates, they talked about, frameworks, right? For example, if I'm a new salesperson, one of the hardest things for salespeople to do is to pick up the phone and call somebody they don't know. People don't know, but that's the hardest job in sales. And the point where you overcome that fear of picking up the phone and calling people you don't know. That's your first breakthrough in sales, right? And the biggest way you can help your team members or your team overcome that fear is providing structure and guidance to them. And in this case, templates, guides, frameworks. How should I structure the conversation? In that conversation, what should I say? When I'm faced with this type of angry customer, how should I manage the responses so I don't come off like rude? Stuff like that. That's what you have like in the guides, right? Then you also have, value proposition one-pagers, presentation and demo guides. When you have done your qualification is the right customer, the customer has entered your sales tool, you have done discovery, they have a pain that your product can solve. You understand the pain, right? Then, based off of the conversation that you've had with them as well, you understand what the impact is if your product solves that pain for them, right? Then after the impact, you now understand what critical events that they're trying, to prevent, where if they don't solve this pain, right, it will be disastrous for their business. Let me use the most popular product in our ecosystem, for example, fintech products, right? You have CBN regulations flying left, right, and center, right? And when I worked at InterSwitch, there used to be like a lot of like integration work that we need to do. When CBN just brings out one policy, it's not like now, there's APIs everywhere, you just go and find. Before, there was a messaging called ISO 8385 or 8583. And it wasn't really APIs, is you go and write some kind Python codes like that. So you need to actually pay engineers. So once CBN just released one, circular like that, that's when you see industry salespeople are jumping around to go and meet banks because we know it's a critical event for them, right? And if they don't meet those deadlines, there are penalties. So, and this critical event is usually what drives urgency in all the deals. So if you cannot find a critical event in any deal that you're working on right now as a salesperson, chances are the objection you'll be receiving from your customers are, it's not a good time right now. Maybe let's talk like in 2 weeks or like in 3, which is fine as well, right? Sometimes in sales, you would never ever find any critical events, right? But yeah, this is like a methodology. Obviously, then a decision as well. When you understand all these things, right, you need to know how the businesses make decisions. My man here says something about legal and legal. You don't want to put a legal person on your side, talk with a legal person in another team. That's like understanding the decision criteria as well. You know that in that team, legal is involved. And when you send a proposal or a contract to the legal team, it takes 2 weeks. So this helps you know like when you're forecasting to like your manager, when they come to you and say, this deal, when is it going to close? Because you understand the decision-making criteria of that business, right? You can say this is exactly when it's going to close. You know how to navigate it, right? So these are like some of the tools that you need to provide at the awareness and consideration stage of your customers and also where you're selling as well, right? Then there's also like the decision and the closing stage, right? So the awareness, customer is aware of the problem. What's that thing again? So the consideration, right? They are aware of the options. You have put yours in front. The decision stage, right? They need to make a decision from the options that have been put in front of them, right? So how do I make that decision? One of the obviously most important tools at our disposals is proposals, right? We need to send out proposals, to these businesses for us to tell them, to propose how we help them solve the problem and solve the pain points that they are experiencing, right? So salespeople will naturally have to go to like marketing, depending on the size of your team. Marketing, there's this company you want to sell to, please help me with a proposal. But if your sales team is already equipped with like proposal templates, right, that has all the key information that needs to be in that proposal, and you map out specific places where the sales team can just change, maybe the customer name, the dates, the amount and stuff like that, it significantly makes your sales, the life of the salesperson easier, and it makes your process significantly more efficient. So that's the proposal template. I highlighted this negotiation guide here as one other, enablement tool, because, naturally salespeople negotiate like every day. There's a ton of stuff we do in negotiation, right? But one of the things we don't do really well as salespeople is to codify things, like build them into like processes. There's nobody here that does not do give and get in sales. But their chances are you probably haven't seen a give and get like scorecard before that has been made available to you as a salesperson to arm you when you're going into, client locations to like negotiate, right? Then there's also like the offer ranges as well. Let me touch on the give and get scorecard, for example. So today, I have this like fantastic product. It's priced at a specific price point, right? And I go and meet the customer, you know what? It's time to close the deal. I'm sending you a contract. It's typically, maybe you do like a 24-month contract. And let's say the deal is 100,000 naira, right? So a 24-month contract will be 200,000 naira, right? Customer comes, you say, no, I don't want to do 24 months contract. It's too long for me. I want 1 year contract, right? You can also say, okay, I can give you like a 1 year contract, right? But it's probably going to be 120,000 naira now. It's not going to be like 100K. This is just a very hypothetical, example. It's cost across like different products that you have, different scenarios, and like different experiences as well. For example, you would see that I use like 6 different points. I use like tenor, I use like upfront payments, I use like contract lengths, whatever it is. One of the things that you can do for your sales teams to help them negotiate better without having to say, hey, I need to talk to my manager, I need to get approval from my manager. When they are on the field, if somebody, like when you talk to like C-level executives, if you give them that vibe of, I need to go and ask my manager, that's probably like the last time they'll talk to you. It's done. It's done. The next time they'll tell you, bring my manager. Do you get? So when you arm them with this kind of tools, so they know their limits, they know the points, guides them on the kind of conversations that they should be having when they are in the field, right? So, give and get scorecard is just one example for like negotiation. Starting offer, desired outcome, okay, this one is in our head every day. Whether we're selling or whatever situation we find ourselves. We know that, okay, we want something, right? This is the minimum we would have set. That's the walk-away point, right? This is what we want to, but if we don't get this one we want, we're okay with this. And that is pretty much what this, starting offer, desired outcome, and walk-away points. Depending on what you sell, depending on who you serve, and depending on, the features or how you've structured your product or pricing, you need to like also create this as an enablement tool for your salespeople to negotiate better, right? These are just like a few examples. Then obviously you have contract templates as well. You have objection guides as well. Then you also have like a CS, hands-off, like templates, right? What does the CS hands-off templates mean? Let me just deep dive into that. It's a customer success hands-off templates, right? A couple of us here are B2B businesses. And because, a couple of us here are founders, we are recurring revenue, or we're expected to be recurring revenue generating businesses, right? So for us, it's not just sales. Sales is acquisition, right? But the lifeblood of the business is retention and growth. Because what you typically see is your total addressable market will dry off at some point. You can start the business and you say, okay, my total addressable market is $1 billion, or my service, all those things we put on slides. It's like $1 billion. It's, 1,000 businesses in Africa or in Nigeria. At some point, you get to that 1,000 businesses. So where's your revenue going to come from? It can only come from 2 places. Finding new value to provide to those guys, or finding new products that other guys outside of them can benefit from to expand your TAM, right? So before you get there, like I think I heard somebody say this on one of the calls here, that it costs significantly cheaper, right, to retain a customer than get a new one. And for us as salespeople, one of the key metrics as founders, right, one of the key metrics we are judged on is customer acquisition cost, right? So if you continue acquiring customers, but you're not retaining those customers are churning, you're just blowing up cost at the top of your funnel, you're getting high CACs and you're not getting anything from like the LTV side, which is a red flag for your business, dead on arrival, right? So why do I say all of these things? CS handoff. That thing I said about salespeople promising what they don't have is the biggest I don't even know how to quantify it. It's the worst thing you can do to your business. Because guess what? You may have like very charismatic salespeople, that will get the deal over the line, even if you don't have that yet. But your customer success team will suffer. As in, they will suffer. That's where your brand starts to get eroded, that you have terrible customer service. That's where your brand starts to get eroded, that you promise things that you can't deliver, And it just goes on and on and on and on. So this CS hands-off prevents that. As a customer success team, if we have customer success teams here, this is one of the most important templates to have at your disposal to prevent your sales teams from throwing you under the bus. Do you get? So this CS handoff should have exactly what you have promised the customer. And you can use the same method. That's why I love this methodology. You can use the same methodology on the customer success side as well, right? Because if you do like a CS, a customer success handoff template, right? And it has the situation of the customer, you already know that customer. It fits your ICP. If he has the pain, you already know that the onboarding I want to do, the features I'll put in that onboarding will potentially solve this pain or not. You already know the impact of that pain if you solve it. So you're already thinking expansion, you're thinking growth, you're thinking cross-sell, you're thinking upsell, right? All of this information. So at the top of the funnel, when you're qualifying opportunities, this is a great methodology. Mid-funnel, when you're closing deals as well, this is a great methodology. And also, post-sales at the customer success side, this is also a great methodology for upsells, expansions, and onboarding as well, right? So that's why like the CS, hands-off template is like super important, right? Then finally on the success side, like all my entire career, I've been on the sales side until I joined Bolt as a country manager for Nigeria and Ghana. They have everybody knows Bolt as a consumer ride hailing, but they have a SaaS product they sell to companies to help them manage employee rides that utilize Bolt as well, right? So that's one of the products that we run in the Nigerian and Ghanaian markets, right? And I was responsible for sales for the first time in my life. I was also responsible for customer success, right? So wahala, big wahala. Because the normal mindset is, guy, go and sell, get all these customers sharp, but I now had retention metrics as well, And you now start to see that there's a very big disconnect in our ecosystem as to what customer success is. People often mistake customer support for customer success. Customer support is reactive. You don't need to do anything. Just wait. When there are issues, they'll come to you. It will enter your queue. You solve it. Great customer support person. Super important job. Customer success, on the other hand, is a sales role, right? Your responsibility is to keep customers happy and get additional growth and expansion revenue from them. And the same kind of plays that you need to execute as a salesperson before you close that deal, there are also plays and enablement you also need to provide to your customer success side as well. So they can get more money from the customers you already have and also provide a fantastic experience for them, right? One great guy that I follow always says something: recurring revenue is as a result of recurring impact. If the impact is not felt over and over and over and over again, you see that monthly revenue is not going to come, right? So these are some of the plays and some of the enablements that you need to provide, right, to your customer success team, right? So help them execute customer success in a way that can help you drive revenue and keep your customers happy proactively. Mutual success plan is pretty simple, right? It's mutual success. So you're working with the customer to document this pain and these impacts, right, that your salespeople have promised them, right? So if a customer comes to you and says, you know what, we want to use your product, to grow revenue to $2 million within the next 12 months, right? And your salesperson will say, fantastic, our CRM can help you do that, to manage your customers, blah, 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 blah. That's what's entering your mutual success plan, right? We want to generate revenue, right? And we want to do it for the next 12 months. So you're setting touch points with that customer across that 12 months, right? sorry, I see I'm out of time, so let me just run through it. So mutual success plan, business reviews. When you set up the mutual success plan, you have touch points that you need to check, for like the customer. So that's where business review comes in. So this pain that you have, this impact that you say you want to get from solving this pain, have we delivered it? Okay, we delivered it the first time at onboarding. Are we delivering it again and again and again and again? That will lead you to seeing something else that we can solve for you, so you can expand, to other features we have or other products we have, right? Health checks. There's a very popular metrics in customer success, NPS. I remember NPS. What's that NPS thing again? Net Promoter Score, yeah. Where you send out like surveys to your customers. Would you refer us? And just put maybe 5 stars. The higher it is, the higher the health of that customer is, right? So that's like another touch point you can put there as well. Then white space planning, obviously, as well. Now, white space planning is like situation. You have a sales team of like 25 people, right? We sold a sales software to you. You have only 15 people using that sales software. Those remaining 10 people are your white space. So it's the job of the customer success person to get those 10 people in addition to the 15 people that are already onboarded at the sales end. And that's what you use a white space, planning template for. Then, of course, an engagement cadence as well. The same thing for like the salesperson that has the different touch points, the different, tools and the different activities that they need to carry out across those different stages. You also create that for a customer success person as well. But it's a bit different. This person is already your customer, right? So it's more of like relationship management. So you need to create a cadence based on the importance of that customer to your business. And what does importance of that customer to your business mean? Revenue. And you could consider some other things like brand, right? For example, we just launched a tool. We have some really huge companies using those tools, but they just have like 1 user. We have some smaller companies that have like 6 users. But that huge company that just gives me 1 user, I like them because I like their name, on my user list. Do you understand? So stuff like that. So that's where you now start to tier the customers that you have. Obviously, this tiering system should have been done at the sales end, right? So you now want to say the tier 1 customers, which are like your most important customers, you need to have high human, touch with them. Visits, phone calls, all of those stuff, right? Then your tier 2 and your tier 3 customers as well, right? So this is on the enablement side. This typically would be the longest aspect, where you now match the customer journey to like the sales process. And this is where CRM really comes in. All of this speech have been given, right? And all of this context I've been providing leads to why you need a CRM software. Because the sales process is a very complex process. And if you want to scale it, right, you need to have a tool that warehouses all your data, all your customers, all your interactions, and all your workflows, right? To say, this is working, we need to scale this. This is not working, we need to change it now. Do you understand? And this is where it happens. This small sheet you're seeing here is a process for maybe an SMB company doing probably like $1 million in annual recurring revenue. And what does it look like? So first, remember the first thing we talked about is the customer journey. Awareness, consideration, decision, closing and success. Which just means that your sales process or whatever you're doing should be based on your customer journey. Do you get? So your buyer is king. You're not doing a process for your sales team. You're doing a process for your buyer to be able to adopt your solution very easily, right? And it's just the responsibility of the sales team to help the buyer. So that's why everything in terms of like processes stems from the customer journey, right? Then I know like a lot of us as salespeople, especially in the very early stages of our career, they just give us a CRM software. We see that CRM software, we see all the stages on the CRM software. When we have conversation, we move it from like one stage to the other, When we have like our meetings with our managers, our one-on-one calls, we don't even understand like the context in which we are moving this deal from one stage to the other. Just aside the fact that, the customer this has happened. But there's a whole lot of things that go into those different stages of the sales process, right? So let's take, for example, the probability. The primary responsibility of a manager or like a VP or like a CEO reporting sales is forecasting, right? If my manager comes to me and says, in our weekly one-on-one meeting, Chinedu, how much is coming this quarter or how much is coming this month, he's going to take that information and he's going to provide it to his VP. And that VP is going to take that information and is going to provide it to their investor or the CEO or the board. So when you see this probability, it's more about forecasting. And this is how it works. There's usually two things. There's commits and there's pipeline, right? And you typically see that some organizations between 10 to like 60%, maybe that's between the awareness and decision stage. All the customers that fall in there on the sales stages are usually customers that we are committing, that are in our pipeline potentially to close. Then the ones, above those stages, like 100% or like a 90%, is what will commit. But there's no way you can get that data if you don't have a CRM software. There's no way you can get that data if you don't have a customer journey that you know of. And there's no way you can get that data if you don't have sales stages that are mapped to your customer journey, right? So everything works, together. Then there's also like the goal of each stage. So this specific stage that we have on our sales pipeline, what exactly do we want to achieve from that stage? Then there's the exit criteria as well. This thing must happen. The customer must take this action, right? Before we move this customer from one stage to the next stage. It's not a seller's action. Remember, it's the buyer's market. So the customer must have taken this action before we move you from stage 1 to 2. That's how you know that your sales process and your different sales stages are authentic. Because the deals in those specific stages are a true representation of the potential of the customer, turning into like monies, right? Then of course you have actions as well. Actions are now the activities that the salesperson needs to carry out for those customers at every stage of the sales process, right? Then outcome as well. So when all these things happen, what exactly are we expecting? For example, at the awareness stage, the prospect is aware and interested in learning more. That is the goal you're trying to achieve. So, the one thing, I'll just add here is, if you don't have this, don't waste money on CRM software. If you haven't mapped out your customer journey, if you haven't mapped out your customer journey to the sales stages you want to create, if you don't have, forecasting for probabilities, you don't have goals, you don't have exit criteria that you have created, you don't have actions that your salespeople need to take, don't bother yourself with the CRM software, right? Just use spreadsheets. It will manage like your sales process very well. But so yeah, this is pretty much it around like the CRM software, and this is what the typical pipeline stage. This is like dummy information. This is what it will typically look like on a CRM software itself. So you see all these things that we have codified: the awareness, the consideration, the decision, the closing, the success. On the CRM software, we have now built it as pipeline stages. And you can see all the different deals with all the different information about each customer that is in your sales process on the CRM software. This is the value you get when you take all those things that Napa and the rest of the team here have said and codify it into a process to help you close deals better. Right? Any questions?